So I believe a few weeks ago I said something to the effect that when I moved computers, I lost my GameMaker Unity project and I was going to have to rewrite it from scratch. And that was a little embarrassing, and the only thing that I can think of that would be more embarrassing than that would be if I had theoretically found it again. Anyway, guess what decided to show up on one of my external hard drives? Anyway, hello all the crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. And let's go ahead and make some games. So I've gone and since I recovered my GameMaker Unity project, I've gone and done a few enhancements in the like making this thing work a little bit nicer. And I played around a little bit with Unity's editor scripting and drawing things like drawing lines between objects of interest, so that the bounce pads, like, we can see the trajectories and whatnot. This is obviously not like physically realistic the way that we've set the like the targets and the bounce apexes and that sort of thing, but it's a game about magic. I think we can get away with that. I've also gone and added some like NPC pathfinding waypoints, which was the subject of the previous video, and at least for the time being, I'm not sure if I'll change my mind. I decided against using like Unity's Navmesh generation system to work these things out. I did place these by hand, but I don't really plan on making these levels in this game big enough where that's going to be a problem, so I think we'll just be able to like slap down a couple of these and connect them by hand, and that won't like be too like awfully terrible. Right, so out of Unity and back to GameMaker, I made a few changes to the map import script because it was getting a little bit long, and I needed to have a way to like load in the pathfinding node system. Let's see. I also believe I went and wrote some test code so that if I like hit the enter key or something, we'll like get the nearest pathfinding waypoint and we'll navigate to a different one somewhere else. I would like to write a nice abstraction for this sometime. I guess I should probably do that today, because today I think I had in my head that I wanted to like finish up NPC stuff, at least mostly. Anyway, if I run the game now, let's see, we can go and look over in this direction, and if I hit enter, the NPC is going to walk over there, and okay, that looks like something might actually be wrong. There is no waypoint over there. I wonder if I like accidentally mirrored on the x-axis like the positions of those waypoints. Should I deal with that now? All right, using Y up instead of Z up doesn't really like confuse me that much, but using left-handed versus right-handed coordinate systems actually kind of does mess with my head. So it looks like now. All right, it looks like now reversing the like negating the x-axis on Unity map import actually solved that problem. Cool. Let me go over to the Codecks board, and yeah, so there's a couple things that I had that I want to finish up. Characters using sprite collections, they don't actually show their walking animation when they move, do they? I might want to go and do that today. Navigation waypoints, that's basically done, but I do want to NPCs walk around on their own, so sort of like some idle AI. I think I will go ahead and let's say group NPC navigation. So right now, our NPC navigation is based on like you can only say navigate to a specific target from a starting point, and I think it would be beneficial to be able to. Can the inspectors in GameMaker just like stay where they are, please? I realize that nobody likes workspaces except for me, and like when you like mess with an asset in the asset browser, you want to see its inspector, but like the script inspector is literally just an empty box. Like why does this have to be here? All right, so we're going to say NPC navigate to point. As I think about it for more than like 10 seconds, this really should probably be an object method, shouldn't it? I think what I really want is going to be something like function get nearest waypoint to a point. And the way that I'll do that, at least for now, this could be a bit more of a hassle if there ends up being like a lot of waypoints in a level. So there's a couple ways I could do this. I could like spatially partition these in a way that makes it easy to search for the nearest one, the same way that we are with collision objects. I could go and use GameMaker instances to represent these, and then just use like instance nearest to find the nearest one. But I think what I'm really going to want to do is I'm going to want to not just find the nearest node, because the nearest node might be on like the other side of a wall, but I'm going to want to find the nearest node that has a line of sight to where you're standing right now. So how about we say, and you could use functional programming for this, but something like for var I equals 0, I is less than array length of this, I plus plus. The code editor just completely broke on me. Why am I using this again? I use Arnold 2 on like my own generally in Wizarducks and other stuff, but when I'm trying to record my screen, this really is kind of bad. Anyway, so for each node, that turned into a comma for some reason. For each node, this is going to have like an XYZ, right? What am I doing? Instead of just guessing, I could actually look at my code and see what it does. Okay, so it is this data structure. So it's going to have an ID, a position, list of connections, and what have you. This is just going to be position then. So to find the nearest instance with a line of sight, to find the nearest node with a line of sight, I'm just going to go and say nearest equals undefined if nearest equals undefined. Nearest equals node, else. Why do you not like all this? Oh, you're going to tell me that we can use the nullish, aren't you? Well, that's not going to work because I need to do something else here. Else, say if point distance 3D, node.x, node.y, node.z, x, y, z. If that is less than point distance 3D, nearest.x, nearest.y, nearest.z, x, y, z. Then we can say nearest nodus, nearest equals node. Also, we're also going to want to do a little array cast there to make sure that we actually can reach it. This is slightly redundant. We don't have to calculate this twice. Let's say var nearest distance equals infinity. That's not quite it, is it? So we'll calculate the node distance here. We'll set nearest distance equal to node distance if that is in fact the closest one. I'm also going to want, when we do this, nearest distance to equal basically that same thing. You know, that's kind of redundant, isn't it? Finding a lot of redundancies in here. No distance like that. All right, so this is clean. This is fairly simple. The expensive part, I think, is going to be doing the line of sight checks. And for that, we can say, what do we have? Like, we have our collision world, and we can, like, check ray against that, can't we? So let's go and var array equals new call array. The origin is going to be XYZ. Our destination is going to be is our node position a, I forget if I made that. Oh, I did make that a regular vector 3 with all the bells and whistles that come with it. All right, don't have to allocate a new one there then. Anyway, we can instantiate ourselves a little call array. Let's Let's make that our starting position, like that. And we can say if obj game dot collision dot check object. That should be a call line segment, because I wanted to have a start and a finish and not like a start and a direction. Remind me, are we... Oh, I can't directly check a shape. I'm gonna have to also construct a call object, little call object over here. All right, var array obj equals new call object. Our shape is going to be array. Our reference is going to be, really, we don't need one. And our mask can be, I think just the default collision mask should work for checking things against solids. And then we can check our array obj like that. I'm gonna want to say if not collision check there, we can go ahead and say that's going to be our nearest, our new nearest. And then we can do the same thing here. I'll do that after the distance check. Only if the next node that you check is closer than the previous closest one, because you might as well do your expensive like ray whatever checks after that. There are ways you could optimize this further. I suppose I will leave a note about that. We shouldn't have to worry too much about this because we're finding like the cheap early outs first. But just in case you want to speed this up by a couple percentage points, we can do that. Anyway, so that's getting the nearest waypoint. If I go back into NPC, we have a couple of methods. Oh, we already have get nearest pathfinding waypoint. Oh, this is only going to work. This doesn't do the line of sight checks. Oh, you know what I kind of also want to do is, because these things I think are just going to sit on the ground, I might want to check for like a couple of units above. I might want to check the Y position, the vertical position, a couple of units above the actual XYZ on everything, just so that like you don't get, like you don't raycast through the floor, which would be probably not how you want to do things. Anyway, get nearest pathfinding waypoint. Yeah, I don't think I actually like having this being a method, because it is possible that you might want to like be able to run that code from the scope of something that isn't an NPC object. You might want to be able to run that code for something else. So I'm going to let that be an external function. However, I can say we can make this a method and just say navigate to, and this is going to work by doing something that's a lot like, oh my god, GameMaker, stop. Alright, I don't... So what I think is happening is every time I click into a new event, the inspector pops out. That is really annoying. So when we say navigate to, we're going to say our starting position is going to be like our get nearest waypoint, like this, from our XYZ. Our target can be our get nearest waypoint to the target XYZ. Instead of doing... Oh, this should also return undefined if it doesn't find anything. It will implicitly, but I would prefer to make that explicit over there. We can say if start equals undefined or target equals undefined, because it is possible, like, are in a location where you can't actually access anything in the pathfinding network, or it is possible that your target is in a location which can't access anything in the pathfinding network. So we'll return early without doing anything. If that's the case, we can say path equals obj game .map.aquila.navigate from the start to the target, and then we can just set our pathfinding route to that. There is one more thing, which is that we will also want an extra node on the end, which keeps track of, which represents like the transit from the target, the waypoint nearest the target, to the actual target position itself. Because if I just did this, and if I tried to just do something like this, it wouldn't actually go to the position that I told it to go to. It would just stop when it reaches the last node. So let me go and see. All right, so like the results array that's returned by that navigate function is just going to return it. I think it's an array of Aquila nodes, and just the only part of it that it actually looks at is the data, which is going to contain the XYZ. All right, how about onto the end of this pathfinding array, we just array push a little struct, which is going to contain a data, a vector 3, and that's going to give it a its final leg of the journey. All right, so I haven't run this since like a half an hour ago. Let's hope this doesn't explode in my face. The NPC is over here. If I hit enter, you are not going to go anywhere. Why is that? That would be a good time to start debugging things. Is the debugger functional in CE2 now? Because sometimes it works and sometimes it just randomly really doesn't. I'm going to try setting a breakpoint there and see if I can figure out if it's like failing to... Oh no, the debugger isn't functional in general. That's right. I did do that with... one of my other projects in this current beta, and that was something that I ran into there too. So if I hit enter, both of these are going to be undefined. Why is that? So our get nearest waypoint logic is not working. You know what? Do NPCs... Is this also like catching the NPC's collision when I do this? Alright, so the raycast, or the line check, isn't working here, and I wonder if... let's leave those debugs there for now. I wonder if... Do NPCs have a collision of their own? They do. The mask is... Well, I guess in that case, I could say, like... Get nearest waypoint, I could say the object's reference is going to be like the NPC, because when you do collision checks, objects can't collide with themselves. That's one of the early out conditions. So let's try this again. Okay, so it's now like a month after I started recording this video. I finally gotten the chance to poke around inside it and figure out what's going wrong here. There's actually two different problems that I found. One of them is that there's a bug in the 3D collision system itself, which was causing line segments which started and ended inside another shape to not count as intersecting that shape, because the line didn't pass through the surface of that shape. I fixed that for the axis line bounding box, which is what the collision hierarchy is built on. I have not yet fixed that for all the other shapes. I will do that eventually on my own. I'm surprised that in all of my testing when I was building this thing from the beginning, I never ran into this, but I guess I just never tried this particular test situation. Anyway, that was the main problem. That's why the line segment casts were never appearing to traverse the the world's hierarchy in the first place. And there was a second problem, which I think I might have mentioned at some point, which is that the collision mask for the NPC, like when the line segment tests were being cast from the position of the NPC to their destination, they were then always detecting that a collision was happening because they were colliding with like the NPC's collider, because the mask that collision check was using also included the NPC's collision mask. So I just threw in another collision mask specifically for objects that should block NPC pathfinding. And now, as a result of this, I should be able to run the game and if I were to go and hit the enter key to make you run off to a certain location, you're going to go there. You are calculating a path, like a star path from here to there using the pathfinding nodes, but you are also seeing that you have a line of sight from your starting position to your destination, and you're just making a beeline. If we did this again, you're going to go off in that direction. I want you to go somewhere that's going to be like through a wall. So now, if you go somewhere which is on like the other side of this wall, you would not be able to pass a line segment check, a raycast from here to your destination. So then you would go into pathfinding mode. It also does periodically check for a line of sight from where it's like standing to its destination. I think it checks it like on every waypoint. And it doesn't find one on each waypoint because these blocks are in the way, and then it goes through the A-star network as usual. And if I were to try another one, all right, so you try to end up behind the treasure chest from your original position, so you had to navigate properly. It seemed like you were getting stuck in there. Not entirely sure what that was about. That might be worth debugging some more later. Hopefully I won't ever have NPCs do any pathfinding that's complicated enough that will become an inconvenience, but there we go. So that's mostly what I wanted to get done in this video. There is one more thing, which I'd like to do now in light of all the nonsense that I just had to fix, which is some sort of debug, visualization for like your paths and whatever. Firstly, I'm going to actually get rid of a bunch of debug messages here because, so we've got some diagnostics, we've got some state stuff. I actually don't really need a lot of these. Yeah, I can get rid of all this stuff. Because I don't want a bunch of meaningless printouts, flooding my log. When I'm trying to do other things in the future. We can simplify that a little bit. Was there anything else? A lot of this is inside other GameMaker extensions that I have installed here, so I don't think I really need to worry about that. And I think we can finally commit this. So that's going to be that. So the last thing I am going to do is I'm going to go and grab my little, not Wind Waker thumbnails, but my little stuff I made, D3D substitution. And this is going to allow me to just like draw shapes and lines and stuff. And I'm going to use this to debug the, like debug draw lines where the like pathfinding path is going. So we're just gonna go and commit this real fast. That's that. I am going to where are NPCs? So obj underscore NPC. So we are going to have a pathfinding value. This is going to be a array of vector 3s, correct? I believe, yeah, that looks like what that's going to be. Do I have a debug config? I do not have a debug config. I'm going to go and make myself a debug config. I'm surprised I didn't do this earlier, because this is usually something I do pretty early on in game projects nowadays. So we can also just make this a little bit more friendly to access. I never spelled debug right on the first try. And this can contain the value os-get config equals debug. This is a compile time expression. This will be resolved at compile time. This exact code won't run every single time you invoke it. And in, for example, obj game, in the draw event, we can say something like if debug with obj NPC, and from here we can just go into a little for loop. I'm going to want to say I equals 1, I is less than array length, I plus plus of our previous equals pathfinding index I minus 1 dot data of our next equals pathfinding index I dot data, and d3d draw line from previous dot x, previous dot y, previous dot z, next dot x, next dot y, next dot z. The radius, let's just make that like 4. Yes, lines don't have a radius. These are really like cylinders drawn on their sides. Color. Color, I'll make that red. Alpha 1, color red. Alpha 1. Draw end caps, we'll just make that false because this is a polyline. Don't really care about that. Takes no more than 0 arguments, but 12 are provided. That is not correct. I think Feather has a problem with functions that can contain optional arguments, but I'm not sure. I haven't had time to sit down and figure out what that's about. This has appeared in some of the more recent betas. It used to largely be solved. Anyway, if I do this, we are not going to see any lines because I'm actually not running under the debug config. Let us go and run that under the debug config. And you are not drawing lines still. Do you not know why that would be? Oh, is it like... It's still skipping... Okay. In that case, I think I will want to say I equals 0, I is less than length, I plus plus, and whatever. And then previous equals next after we finish drawing the line. So we'll want to update that. Okay, there we go. So now it's going to draw a line from start to destination. And that will also work if you're not actually following the grid. If you are, like... you know, just as I've been calling it, making a beeline to the next target. I think I had in mind that, like, if you have a line of sight to a waypoint itself, oh, I see what's going on. You're getting stuck in there because there's not actually enough space to go through there without colliding. See, that's another thing that pathfinding debug visualization helps with. Yeah, and now... the reason that you seem to be getting stuck there is because you're too close. There was also something that was commented out in the NPC code, which was... where were you? I think the code to actually, like, avoid objects was commented out. I don't remember why I did that. I could probably go back and rewatch some previous videos and figure out why I did that, but all this was commented out, so you were just walking through stuff, which I think was also confusing me, because that's weird. Let's see, this can be 2 configs, for, 2 different commits, debug config, and also debug draw. debugged our pathfinding network. Before I end this off, should I just go and change this so that if you have a line of sight to your next to a future waypoint, you just go there? This video is already going on pretty long, but that would involve, I think, I don't want to do this constantly because that could end up, if you have a long path, that could end up being a lot of line segment checks per per step. But I think what I'm thinking is when we arrive at a node, we can just check for lines of sight to future nodes, and that should probably be good enough. This is also largely duplicated code. The only difference here is that if you're like right on top of a node, I'm gonna have you stop, and I think we can get rid of all that other duplicated code there. And then we can say from here, when you've arrived at a node, or I guess this would also apply like when you start moving, check for lines of sight to each previous node on the network, and if you find one, you can sort of like discard the earlier nodes and just like go to that one. And I think for something like that, we can say if for var I equals 0, and here I'll actually do this intelligently because this isn't debug code, n equals array length I is less than n I plus plus. This should probably be start at I equals 1 because you'll always have a line of sight to your first one unless something like got in the way, which is probably another check to see like if a door closes or something that's right in front of you, then find an alternate solution. But if get line of sight from our ref object is going to be self, I think that's how I wanted this to behave. Yeah, self. So x, y. I'm gonna edit that out because trying to type those correctly was embarrassing. If you have a line of sight to the node, then we are going to break out of this loop here, and we are going to array delete from the pathfinding array from index 0 to I minus 1. Or should that be I? Let me think about that. So, if you see that you have a line of sight to like node at position 4, then you're gonna want to delete array indices 0, 1, 2, and 3. So I think I actually don't want to delete index I minus 1 there. I think I actually just want I, and let's just print something out so that we know that it's working. And let's see. So you're gonna go there. I actually want you to go like here first. Interesting. So if you're there, if you were like down there, you could just walk through those flowers because those flowers are non-solid. I would have thought that didn't work. I would have thought that you should have been able to find a line of maybe I won't do this, at least not now. Maybe I'll just leave a note for this later. I don't think super smart NPCs are within the scope of this game, and I should be able to like place enough pathfinding waypoints by hand in the levels that they will find a roughly like smart way to get from point A to point B anyway. But that's just food for thought in the future. Anyway, I think that's quite enough for now. This video took a longer to make than maybe it really should have. What are we up to, by the way? So tag 46, and What video number is this going to be? Alright, this is also week 46. So, like, all of this was encompassed in that. I'm going to push those changes to GitHub. This is going to be indeed 0.47. I don't think I missed any. And I'm going to end this off here. So, my name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. If you want the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the description of the video. Next time, we are going to... What are we going to do? So, this is definitely done. 0 of 2 checkboxes have been checked. Fine. I will check those just to make myself feel better. Let's see. We can unhand those. NPCs can walk around on their own. I think that is going to be for next time. And that's probably going to be the last thing I do for NPCs before I finally move on to other things. Entity render loop, I should be able to check off too, but I just want to have a more thorough look at that before I do so. Alright, next time we'll be finishing off NPCs. In the meantime, you should all go check out Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, which is one of the games that I like to work on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down below. I do like to make tutorial videos on GameMaker, so if seeing more guided looks at any of this appeals to you, feel free to subscribe. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, Squarecrow, Spy Die Games, Pixelated Pope, Manta Ray, GameMaker, GameArt Indie, Edward Holt, DJ Gibbles, and Gamedev for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description.